Hey guys, and welcome back. In this lesson, we're going to model some window grids and a store awning. So, let's begin. So this is where we left last time, and let's jump to the front view. And here we are going to create a window grid to these windows that we have on the sides of this door. So let's start by creating a cylinder. Okay, and let's move that cylinder to the side. There. Okay, and now we're going to change the radius. Let's try with something like 1. That seems to work. And we also have to change the height. So let's try with 80 or maybe even more. Let's change that to 120. Okay, so now let's see if this is the size that we need. So we're just going to rotate that to 45 degrees. So let's come here and rotate that, and let's move this to see if this is going to fit. And we can see that we still have to increase the height for this cylinder. So let's go back and let's change it to 130, and now we're just going to place it there, and we're going to duplicate this object. So let's first change the rotation segment, because we're going to make some copies of this, and it is easier if we change the value from the beginning, so we don't have to change the value for all of the duplicated objects. So let's do it now. Okay, and I'm just doing here a quick render to see if this is okay, and it looks like 12 rotation segments work very well. So let's try with a different radius. Okay, 0.75 seems to work. So let's come back to the front view. And now we're just going to place that cylinder there. And we're just going to make a new copy and move that copy to the right. And we can see that we can just change the value here. So we will work with minus 285, and let's make another copy, and let's change the value, and let's work with minus 270, and again we are going to make another copy and just decrease this value to minus 255, and we're going to just repeat this process. And we can use also an instance object or a cloner, and we're going to use those tools for the roof and other elements. But for this grid, we're just going to do this manually. So that's all you have to do, just make a copy and change the position. So that's what we are doing here. So now we have all of these cylinders, and we're just going to place them inside a new null object. And just to keep things organized, we're going to rename this to A and make a copy and rename it to B. So now let's select A and let's rotate that to minus 45 degrees. But we have the axis mode on, so let's turn that off, and now we can rotate it to minus 45 degrees. Okay, and now let's select B and rotate it 45 degrees. Now we can come to the perspective view and push that grid back. So we can see now when we make a render, it looks very good. And let's just make sure that this grid doesn't go outside of this window. Okay, so we are going to select all of these cylinders. We're going to change that back to 1. So we have a radius of 1, and I think it looks much better. Okay, so now we can come back to the front view, and we're going to select both of these groups that make this grid, and we're just going to change the size for some of these tubes so they are not bigger than they should be. So let's change that to 40, and this the last one we are going to change that one as well to 40, and we're going to select the next one, the next two ones, and let's try with 50 and maybe 60. Okay, 60, maybe 70, and let's select the other ones and let's try with 90, and this one is okay, maybe 110. Okay, and we're okay now. So let's change that back to 115. Okay, and now let's do the same for the other ones, for the other group. So this should be 40. Let's go to the next ones, and that's going to be 60. Okay, let's move that. That should work like that. Okay, and let's continue changing the height of these ones. 65, so they fit, and now this one to 90. So now these cylinders are just the size that they have to be. Now let's close this group, select both of these groups, and just push them like that, and this looks very good. So now we can make this a new null object, and let's just name it grid. Make a copy of this group and just move it to the left to the next window. Like that. Just try to make sure that this is centered, and let's come to the perspective view to make a render and see how this is looking. This looks very good. Let's try from a different angle. I like it. And this is working very well. So if you do a close-up shot, these kind of details are going to make this scene look very good. So now let's select this grid 1 and let's change the name for grid L for left and the other one for right. We're just going to name it grid R and place them inside a new null object, and let's name this windows and place it inside of the first floor. Okay, so it is good to have everything organized, so all the time just to make sure that you are renaming all of your objects. So when you have to come back and change something, it's going to be easier for you to find the object that you want to change. So now we're going to start modeling the awning, and to do that let's make a cube and take this cube and place it on top of this door, and let's make it smaller. And now we can get closer and continue modifying this cube. So we can make it smaller, and this is what we're going for. And let's come back to cinema and continue modeling, and we're going to hide this building O1 so we can see this background picture, and we can place this cube where it has to be, and let's make it a little bit taller. Okay, let's just place it there, and now let's come to the right view, and here we're going to model and modify this object. So we can see this shape, which is the shape that we are going to make. So first let's see this cube. So now we are going to change the segments for this cube, and we are going to work with 2 segments for Y and 2 for Z, and now we can make this an editable object. And now we can just make some extrusions. So let's come to the polygon mode and select those 2 polygons at the end, and let's make a little extrusion. So now we can come to the right view, and we're going to take those polygons and move them to the left and scale them down, and just continue moving them until we have a shape similar to the one that we have on the picture that we have as reference. Something like that. Okay, that should work. And now we're going to select those edges, and we're going to use the edge cut tool and make 2 different divisions. So we can now take these points and just scale them to make this a little bit rounded, like that. So now we have the shape that we were looking for. So now we can come to the perspective view, and this is the shape that we have. And now we're going to make an inner extrusion on those polygons. So let's go to the polygon mode, select all of those polygons, but first let's make sure that this only select visible elements is turned on. And we can select now the extrude inner tool, and we're just going to make that inner extrusion. Okay, So now we can select those polygons and just deselect those at the bottom that we don't need to extrude. And we're going to make an extrusion. So pressing letter D will bring the extrude tool. And now let's just move those polygons. So now we're just going to make a symmetry object. And we're going to place that object right in the middle of the door. And let's move it up. We can see and just make sure that this is on the middle. Okay, so 34 should be it. And now let's just place the symmetry object, and let's take the cube and place it inside of the symmetry object. Now we can take the polygons that we extruded and just move them to the left until they are close to the other polygons. Okay, let's hide some of these elements. Let's hide this building so we can just focus on these polygons now. Okay. Now we're going to just delete all of those polygons. So basically what we're going to do is just to make the symmetry an editable object. So let's select that and press letter C. And now we can take this cube out and delete the symmetry. And we're going to weld these points together so they are only one instead of two. And to do that, we're going to select those 2 points, and using the weld tool, we just have to click, and that will weld the 2 points together. And this is basically what we have to do with all of those points. Just select them, and using the weld tool, click, and they will become one point. So let's continue here, and those 2, and these other 2 at the bottom, and let's get closer so we can see those 2 points better. Okay, and those 2, just select them and click in the middle. Okay, and make sure that you don't select any other points, and just the last 2 ones. Okay, so now we can see that this is only one object, and this is ready. We just have to make some divisions so those polygons are not too big. So let's select those edges there, and we're going to uncheck the only select visible elements option. So just using the edge cut tool, we're going to cut those edges so those polygons are the right size. Okay, and we can turn on the visibility for this building, and you can see now that this is complete. So we're finished with the base for this awning, and we're going to continue making the fabric, which we can see here on Google Earth. And It's going to be really easy. So let's do that. And we will start by making a plane. And let's come to the front view. And here we're just going to place this new plane under the base for this awning. And we can rotate this plane 90 degrees. So now we can scale down this because it was way too big. And we have to make this larger. So let's just do that. And let's place it just under the base. Okay, so we can see how these have to be. Now we can select the plane and we are going to change the width segments and the height segments, and let's try with different values. So let's try with 4 for the height segments, and that looks like it's going to work. But first let's move this plane there. That's okay. And now we can come to the width segments and try with a bigger value like 40. And now we can come to Google Earth and check if that is something close to what we have here on Cinema 4D. And it looks like we can work with that. So we can now select this plane and we're going to make this an editable object, pressing letter C. And now we can come to the polygon mode and let's make this kind of selection. So select one polygon and leave the next one unselected, just like that. And we have to continue, just select one and leave the next one unselected. Okay, and here we're going to select all of those polygons and just delete them. So now this is finished and we are just going to come to the front view and select this plane and we're going to resize it and we're just going to make it fit on the base that we created before. So just change the size and let's fix the axis. Okay, so it should be good now and we're just going to see here on Google Earth how this has to go inside of the base. So let's move it and even more. So now we have to select all of those edges at the top. So let's select them and we're going to deselect those other ones. So we have only one big line selected. And we can come now to the right view. And let's go back because it got deselected. So just Control C. Okay. And now we can move this there, and now select those edges and just make them go inside of this base, like here on this picture. Okay, so now we can make an extrusion and extrude those edges and just place them inside of the base. We can make another extrusion and just place it there. Now we can come to the perspective view and we can see that now it looks better because it looks like it is going inside of this base, like in the picture that we have as reference. Okay, so now we can select all of these polygons and we're going to make an extrusion because it has to be thicker, and we're going to check this create caps because we can see here that this is not what we want. So we're going to undo that and we're going to check on this create caps option, and now we can extrude it and it looks better. Okay, so this piece of fabric is done now, and we can inspect this from the different angles. So let's make a quick render, and this looks very good. And this is all for this video, but we are still have lots of things to learn. So I will see you on the next lessons. Thanks for watching.